Hello, everybody, and welcome to Beyond BMR. And of course, I'm your host, Bigfoot Michigan Rob. Joining me in Studio B from Texas, Tex. Beyond BMR goes beyond the mysteries of the world. We take you down a deep dive into all the realms and all the rabbit holes that we can discover. From Bigfoot to Dogman, UFOs to aliens, from time travel to the paranormal. How do all these phenomena come together? We got a perfect guest for that tonight. Coming back for his third or fourth time, Bryan Bowden joins us. It's going to be a fantastic show. If this is your first time here, please subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob on YouTube. Also subscribe to Texas Front Porch on YouTube. You can find us on Subspace Radio, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, wherever podcasts are found. We're also on KPNL Radio. Thank you to the lovely Aunt Selene for that. Don't forget the Super Chat is open. The Super Chat's a great way to help support what we do around here. Long after the show ends, for people watching on replay, the Super Thanks is also open should you care to donate. It is always greatly appreciated. Speaking of appreciation, thanks to many of you who have purchased my book, Bigfoot Michigan Rob Presents True Cryptid Encounters Book 1. The link's in this video, the link's on my channel, and of course, you can find it simply on Amazon. By typing, hell, you can type in Bigfoot Michigan Rob, it'll pull up as well. So thank you for that. We got a great platform, a bunch of shows throughout the week, and I'll let you know about all those as well. Mondays is Texas Front Porch. You can find Tex and Brandy at 9 o'clock in the East. Tuesdays, right, is Van Buren Variety, 8 o'clock in the East. Beyond BMR, that's right, this show right here, 9 o'clock in the East. Wednesdays, The Diva Dimension with Danielle Diva. You can find her on Texas Front Porch at 10 o'clock in the East. Thursday, Brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob, 1 o'clock in the East. Me and the lovely Krista from the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast. Please subscribe to them if not already. Later that evening at 9 o'clock, the Blondes and Booze Paranormal Podcast. Thursday with Krista and Brandy. If you need a little more woo with the booze, you got the Blondes, the Booze, and the Woo, on Friday night as well at 9 in the East. Saturday, Tex and Miss Danielle Diva. If you're into true crime, they've got a show on every Saturday at 3 in the East. It's called Infamous Minds, where Tex and Miss Diva, they go inside the minds of the world's serial killers. So fantastic show. And of course, Saturdays, I always got to plug my buddy Jessica Jones, Spaced Out Radio, Saturday and Sunday, 10 in the East. She also is the Cryptid Huntress. You can find her twice during the week on her awesome YouTube channel. With that being said, I'm going to bring up my partner in crime.
What's up,
Tex? What's up, Tex?
I wore a shirt specially for you tonight.
Well, you know what? The Dallas Cowboys, yeah, your Cowboys, they're an up and down team this year, my Lions.
What are you talking about? They're 3-1.
Yeah, well, they kind of tanked it against the Cardinals, man. Arizona, give me a break.
Hey, any given Sunday.
Well, right off the bat,
look what the Dolphins did last week. They scored 70 points on Kansas, and then they come back and they just lay a goose egg this weekend. So,
yeah, any given Sunday, I will give you that, because any team can win on any Sunday. I'm geeked that my Lions are 3-1. We might have a team finally. I've never seen a playoff game in all of my years on this planet. So I'm like already, planning my playoff run, and I can't count my chickens before they hatch though. And so I'm excited about the NFL season. It's about my favorite sport and this. Thank you very much. Rat Sass right off the bat, the $10 super chat. Always enjoy your show, Rob. Sabe, bless you. Well, thank you for that. I love you. Thank you, Rat. So Tex, I was going over something, and do you realize, Tex? And you don't realize it because I didn't realize it. we started out Brunch with Bigfoot Mystery Rob. That's been on the airwaves for 2.5 years now. And do you know that? Remember, I was tinkling with doing this show. Do you know today is the 1-year anniversary already of this show? It's just like it seems like we just started this up, man.
Well, time flies when you're having
It
fun.
does, and that's kind of when you're having fun. It does fly, but it's kind of scary.
I know.
We got Mr. Bryan in back. Maybe he can show me how to travel. Well, I don't think you can travel back in time. I don't know. I heard you can't. Maybe we'll have to pull him up and get him get his opinion on that, I guess. But yeah, Mr. Bryan Bowden, Sir Bryan Bowden will be joining us. Tex, you're about to say something before I bring up the guest.
I was just going to say congratulations on sticking around this long.
Well, hey, I got to tell you, man, when you do, like you said, though, when you do something you love, and I do love this, and I do have to say, and on behalf of not just me, but you and your awesome platform, I do this for a couple reasons. I love the subject matter. I love giving people information that I believe is relevant. But the people in the chat are fantastic. They turn in every Tuesday and Thursday. They tune in for the front porch, and then they listen. The people that don't come and chat listen to the shows, and that makes me feel good about doing something right. Because not everybody does it right.
Well, you're talking about it being 1 year on this show.
Yeah.
And if you think back, and I just went through all the old shows not too long ago.
Okay.
That the way we started out, bringing you on board, it was, like, you're always talking about how we had a conversation and wanted to bring you on board. You agreed to it, and then we'll do it in a couple of weeks. And then I called you the next day, or basically
it was supposed to be. I remember
Thursday, and
yeah, go ahead.
But since then, you got your own channel up and running, 2 shows running on it, and you've written a book. And I mean, flown down here, been in a conference. I mean, been to 2 conferences down here.
Yeah.
One in Alabama.
One in Alabama. Yeah. And who'd have thunk that? And the only reason I got a hold of you is because I wanted to start a sports channel on YouTube. Then it turned into a cryptid channel, So thanks to everybody in the audience and listening later, and all the viewers and listeners. I do appreciate it. And again, also for Texas Front Porch, you guys are all rock and roll. And so thanks. I appreciate that. So with that being said, we're going to bring up Mr. Bryan Bowden. Hey, buddy.
Hey, how's it going? When you asked that scary question, can you travel back in time? Yes, you can. You can travel back in time. You actually can. And most people will say, no, you can't. But yes, there are time travelers. You can travel backwards and forwards and everywhere in between. Time travel. But it's good to be on. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. Like I said, you've been on with me 3 or 4 times. Oh, yeah. Well, speaking of the book, well, thank you, sir, for that.
There it is. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Oh, you won.
Yeah, for
Rob,
sure.
Rob,
no big deal.
Rob said I was supposed to say thanks for coming back.
Well, my pleasure. Yeah, it's been a year, so I'll be back.
But, and Bryan, you've been on like 3 or 4 times on this show, and I know you've been on the front porch. You've been on the Blinds and Boots, so you've been on our entire network of friends and family that we still call the Porchers. We're all family,
right?
And, so yeah.
You know what I mean? I speak from the heart. No one has to have you on a program, and anybody that asks me to be on a program, I'm actually honored to do so. I've had so many people like, well, I wanted you on my show, but I didn't know how to ask you. I'm like, just ask. I'm not, pardon the expression, I'm not a whore. I'm not gonna, not look whatever. But if you want me on, I'll be on. And I mean, I've been doing a couple of shows lately, totally not in that paranormal. When I say paranormal, I'm thinking Bigfoot, cryptids, the whole thing genre.
Yeah.
It's other things. I was talking about how to raise your vibration, frequency, vibration, sound, which is hugely important, and just, good vibes. So I'm always honored, and I appreciate, I love what all you do. And those ladies, the blondes,
Yeah.
they're awesome. Love them. And unfortunately, I was hoping to go down to that Bigfoot conference in Texas, but couldn't make it. But one day we'll all meet up, and we'll have Rob open up another bar so he can put out a Bryan Bowden drink.
Oh,
I've been trying to get him to do that for a while.
Well, it's funny too, Brian. I met you, like, not personally, but I remember when I first I was watching, Tex was starting his show, and then Spaced Out Radio. You always were
Yes.
guests on there, and then and me and Dave used to play some drinking game when I was working at my bar.
That's
And
awesome.
then I think you were on with Ron Murphy, and you both like,
Yep.
That's the hangout we got to go to in
I
Michigan.
said, yeah. I mean, like, I wanted to hook up. Let's get Dave there, get Ron there, go to your old place, and have them concoct like the SOR, the Cryptid Guru, and whatever you want to call me, Bigfoot Bowden or whatever it is,
right.
Whatever it is. That's to have rum in it though.
Well, yeah. You can't walk into a bar and just have a Coke straight up, right?
No, I'm literally, I used to be a tequila guy, especially when we were performing on stage. It was nerve-wracking, so I drink tequila straight, no lemon, no salt. And if they have the worm in there, that was the better, because that stuff will blow your mind later on in life, later on in the evening. But then I switched to rum and pirates, and kind of like that idea of boarding some other ships, usually ladies at the time. But yeah.
Well, of course, that's one of the main focal points behind having a bar.
Yeah,
Going to the bar, and when you're younger, a lot of people now, you're married now, and I get it, and it's fun in the early days.
I definitely want to go now. Once you have kids, you're like, I'm going to the bar or the lodge. I'll go to one of them. But yes, sir.
You go to the lodge. But typically, though, tequila is I'm not a big liquor drinker. I'll go with a nice tequila. I'll take a tequila chilled, and then typically my drink of choice, if I'm drinking, would be like beer or something. But I'm a beer and shack guy. That's what my bar was.
Yeah, you know what? It's I don't drink that much, because I'm usually the one they call if there's a problem. Not only just to family members, but friends, like, oh, there's trouble. I'm coming. You kind of can't tie one on. And I was a really good drinker. I mean, like, I didn't drink the power drink. I just went the distance, because you're gonna chat, you're gonna go through it, and but I'll have one or two every once in a while. I like some of the Belgium stuff that has grapefruit in it, and some white ale. Good stuff. It keeps you but
keeps you on your toes a little bit. You had said something earlier that's very fascinating about what I half-assed jokingly was talking about the time travel. You can't go backwards. Well, but though, the reason I even mentioned that is because I heard that by several people, and of course the guy that our Keith Andrews, he does his show with Dave, and and a multitude of times I've even sent a question in when I'm staying up late and I watch the show, and you have that you can ask Keith a question. And twice I asked the same question to see if I get a different answer, not to be funny or smart, but he always responded back that you can't travel back in time. You can always go forward. And I could never understand his explanation, because he gets all scientific and it goes over my head sometimes, I'll admit. So what's the premise behind your theory or your reasoning behind we can go backward? Because I think it would be cool as hell to go back to 1957, check out what my mom and dad were doing,
That would be kind of interesting, kind of little bit of that Back to the Future type of vibe.
Yeah.
I
didn't want to, I didn't really want to refer to that, but yeah.
Boys, like, okay, mom, like,
yeah.
Oh my God, my mom's a whore. Holy crap.
Holy shit. Yeah.
Right. I mean, because look, when you get to high school, I have this problem right now. That's why I'm going bald right now, Rob. Because I have a 15-year-old daughter who has a boyfriend. She's in high school. It's going to be, 16, and she looks like she's 20. So it's, I know what that boyfriend, he's a great kid, really, really nice, but I know what he's thinking. I know what's going through his veins, went through my veins at the same time, and But as far as time is concerned, time is an Earth construct. Time does not really exist in the galaxy. Okay. And because we needed that construct. So basically, what takes place when you leave here and you travel, like when you pass away and you travel out of your body and you're going to heaven, right? Hopefully. And there is a heaven and a hell. When you get there in heaven, and depending on what level of heaven you get there, which depends on, what your life has been like. If you've been an angel, you're getting up higher to the pyramid. If you're not, you're starting out lower. And then you go through this whole orientation process. But all the information that is ever known, that is past, present, future, is all available to you. It's call it the Akash record. But it's constantly about, it's all this information that's taking place. And you have access to that. And you can see anybody that's passed on from you knows what's going to happen tomorrow. And technically, God forbid, someone is going to have a car crash, right? They're not allowed to interfere in that. If they interfere in that, then there's penalties to it, and then you'll stay longer at a certain level and not ascend, up to the higher levels over time. So when you say past, to be, when he says you can't go in the past, he may be trying to calculate that and using all those equations, which are just Earth-based. It does not exist in reality. And most scientists will take what I just said and throw it out like you're talking crazy talk. There's no basis in there is tons of basis. You just choose to ignore it. When you have people that have a near-death experience and are going up to heaven or going to hell and seeing what's going on there and tapping into that, they're telling you can do certain things. And you can travel back in time. You can travel back to 5 seconds before this took place. But there is a problem of occupying the same space. You can't technically occupy the same space. The problem with going back in time also is whatever you do in back then can direct a different outcome. Maybe you don't do anything, spectacular. You just stand there. You don't, press down on a flower or whatever, or you fart in the wind. And the next thing you know, you come back into your timeline and like it's all shattered and fallen apart, or maybe everybody's flying at this point. We don't know what the effects of it are. There are plenty of times when you have extraterrestrials who tell you, I'm from your future. So if they're from my future, then they traveled where? Back in time. Right? Think about that.
Yeah, no, I guess that's a little better explanation for me. So what you're saying too then is it's almost going back in time could actually be dangerous too then. And
Yeah,
to an extent.
It can be dangerous. Here's another thing. I had a conversation. I have a gentleman who's I'm thoroughly convinced, and we've been going through, long friendship here. He is a hybrid. We'll just leave it at that. He's part human, part extraterrestrial. And he always states you can only go, he's able to jump in and out of different timelines and have experiences. And he says, you only want to go so far in the future, not that far in the future, for the strict problem that you may go too far in the future or even too far in the past. And in the process, there may be some kind of disease there or virus that you're not familiar with. And what happens? You're dead. Right? A lot of these, throughout time, a lot of diseases and viruses are being found deep in the beds, in the ocean, in different sediment layers throughout the ices, the ice layers. And as they come out, we haven't seen these in millions, if not a billion years. So what are the effects on humans at this point? If there's no natural immunity to it, you're going to have a problem. So that's where your problem lies. Also, like you said, it's very Back to the Future, right? You know, you mentioned I'd like to go back to my mom, you know, what my mom and dad were like, you know, whatever. And it would be great. Maybe he'd tell you, I would tell my father, don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, but I had a chance to rethink that what I said. I don't think I'd want to see them back in the future.
Well, basically what we're talking about is the butterfly effect.
It is partially the butterfly effect. But again, the one thing that I throw the wrench into, the monkey wrench, is if extraterrestrials can do it, and there's plenty of evidence that's legit that people say, oh, that's CGI or that's just bull. You know, no, I have people I've interviewed that are experiencing multiple experiences. And at that, it started off with not remembering anything, and now they remember everything. And they're writing this stuff down. They're literally on a course to try to help as many people who are experiences to adapt to this and say, it's okay, we're going to be good, because they're on a mission to take information from the future. Like, this is where you're going to go when all these timelines are converging. You don't want to be there. You want to, you know, detour to protect humanity. And they're trying to do it. They know they've talked to people, extraterrestrials. I'm sorry about people. And they said, have you ever been in, you know, in the past? How do you know all this? How are you doing this? And they said, we do have people, we do have entities or beings that travel, you know, well before you. And we know what's happening. And we're trying to change certain areas and drive a narrative different way. And so that's how they're getting the information. So if you say it's the butterfly effect, and if you crush a butterfly, you may not, you know, Hitler may not die, or the war may continue on. We really don't know. But I don't think it's as severe as that. I think there are certain things you can totally affect. Like, you know, get the sports, you know, almanac and start placing bets.
Well,
you know,
yeah, I mean, that's what I would do too. So I was just thinking, yeah, when I say dangerous, I mean, I'm not gonna. I don't know. I don't know if I'd be that guy to want to go back and figure out the JFK assassination, or if I simply went back to get the lottery, the winning Mega Millions. Right?
I like
to
the
me,
Powerball numbers. I mean,
Powerball, yeah, that's $1 billion, I think now. Yeah.
You know,
To me though, if you went and did that, it would. I don't know. I hear a lot of different things like that would alter the plane, and the world. It could be detrimental to the person that did that. Like if I went back and got yesterday's repress or newspaper today, tomorrow's today, or however you want to say that.
Yeah.
And I got that information and utilized it on the stock market. Isn't there a negative impact on the person that did that, or in the world, or is just because
not
no one's
necessarily
really done it?
Not necessarily. I mean, who knows if that's your destiny? The problem you also get into, and this is going to throw another monkey wrench into this, right?
Yeah.
So there's multiple timelines, and there's parallel universes within our universe.
Mm.
So what happens is you have, you know, and there's different dimensions, and that even throws it even to a bigger curve, right? So maybe you're able to come, you know, this is partially the way you can go to a timeline and then come back to where you were just before you took off. So it's seamless, where you're jumping not into the original timeline you're in, but the one that's parallel to it. And then that's where it can get a little bit harmful. There's nothing wrong with that. Who knows? That may have been your path and destiny to begin with. The problem also is you got to think about this. You know, what's the root of all evil? Money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So who knows? Maybe it is detrimental. Maybe, you know, you start like, yeah, I'll open up another bar, open up a series of bars, or I'll start drinking really good. And then you start drinking really good and you go out and you feel confident and cocky, and then you hit a tree, right? Oak tree, you're on my way.
Mm-hmm.
Leonard Skinner, right? So again, it depends on what you're doing with it.
Okay. I just got one last question on this, and we can move on. Text and interject something. When you talk about destiny,
yeah,
Hitler committed atrocities.
Yes.
And if there was a person who went back in time and thwarted all of his crimes, right, and he didn't exist, maybe he got a bullet in his head when he was 10. The earth today, the world today would be different. I mean, to me, that would just change the whole world into a world we don't know today, right?
100%. 100%.
Well, we wouldn't have the rockets we had. We wouldn't have,
Well, yeah,
arguably the atomic power that we had. A lot of things.
there wouldn't be a need for
Yeah.
it technically. Well, maybe
Yeah.
maybe one of the there was a I don't know if this is true or not. I used to watch Finding Hitler or Hunting Hitler, whatever it was. I know he's like one of my best friends. I met him when I was like 7 years old, 8 years old. And he works government, and he knows Bob, the guy that forgot his last name. He was the head of that whole operation, hunting Hitler, going into South America and stuff. In some of the stuff, the OSS documentation and even Russian documentation, there may have been a point, if I'm correct, where someone had their sights on Hitler and could have taken him out, and they didn't, because the people around him, there was a specific person that was next in line or whatever, was worse than him.
I heard something. Yeah.
Okay.
No.
So you take out Hitler, yay, whatever. We don't, but then again, then you don't have the scientists that went in paper clips. So we're not going to the moon.
Yep.
We're not building rockets. We're not building nuclear warheads. We're not advancing. We're just continuing on to a certain degree until conflict happens. Life is literally a yin yang, right? So you have, when you have a lot of good, there's always a little evil. And when you have a lot of evil, there's always a little good. It's balance. And when you disrupt the balance, which happens all the time, they turn CERN on,
Yeah.
which is totally, they really they screwed the pooch on that one. There are ramifications for it. And then that's why we have the Mandela effect, and who knows what's supposed to happen. How many times has Bob Barker died in the last 10 years? He's been, I know that guy died a long, long time ago, and you're like, oh, he's alive? I thought okay, whatever. I've experienced some of the Mandela effect, and actually the Mandela effect actually took place kind of near where you are, Rob. It's the first ever was there was the first collider that went online was FermLab, and it was out of Illinois, but it was big enough. It was in that area. And I know you're Michigan, and I'm not going to get into the border wars right there, but
Right.
and what happened was they were looking on some kind of a drive or technology for travel and the energy sources and that type of stuff, quantum based. And they turned this thing on late 90s, early 2000s, and they ramped it up, and something happened, and they shut it down immediately. Like within 2007 or 9 or something like that. The Mandela effect was coined by a paranormal investigator who said, oh, I thought he was dead. I know he was dead. Mandela was dead. When they looked it up, Mandela wasn't dead. So what happens is we're going to use some items here. Okay. Let me see. You can't do it. It's too. So this is our world, right? This is our planet. When they open up the Mandela effect and they ramp something up, they don't know what they're playing with, kind of like a kid with a 45, right? Okay. They ramp it up. They fracture the walls of this. And when it comes back together, now we have the past of one, and I'm going to try to show it up here where you can see the colors.
I did.
Okay, so you have a white one and an orange one. I know it's kind of difficult with the lighting that I have here, but you're going to have half of one and then of timeline and the other half of the other fractured timeline, which is around it. This is why when you get people born before the 2000s, they remember Luke, I'm your father. They remember the Ford logo being the right way. They remember so many different. I remember the cornucopia. I saw it 1,000 times. One thing my grandmother did was buy us underwear. Lots of freaking underwear and socks growing up. And you saw the cornucopia there. Now you don't see it, because what happened is 2 different timelines, boom, explosion. You put them together, and it's always going to have a fracture, right?
Yeah.
That fracture is we have pieces from our timeline that we grew up in now connected to another timeline from the 2009s forward. Anybody from 2009 forward is going to say, no, Mandela's alive. We're going to know that he was dead. But because when you joined it back together again, you can't get a perfect seam as if you created it yourself. That's where the problem lies. Here's another thing that this is just my theory. I can't technically prove it. In Chicago, they have a lot of flying humanoid creatures that look a lot like Mothman. Okay. And they have wings, weird faces, and they have images of them literally hanging out on top of the Sears Tower, like just perched there, like gargoyles, flying off. My personal opinion is these creatures, along with black-eyed kids, shadow people, are all interdimensional beings, and they found the crack. They're like, what's that crack over there? And they went through the crack of the two timelines, slipped through, and now they're here. And then every time they kind of explode that collider again, it fractures a bit again, and other pieces come in. So that's where they come from. Because on a different scale, if you go with the black-eyed kids and the shadow people, black-eyed kids, actually, let's go with black-eyed kids. Most of the reports are near universities. What do universities all have? They have their own personal little colliders. They're doing these experiments all the time. When you get to the Mothman, who is very similar to what's going on in Chicago, okay, the Mothman prophecy, the eyes, the whatever, where was he hanging out? At the TNT factory, right? They were blowing that stuff up, creating fractures and energy. And I think they messed around with seams at that point, and they put holes in our timeline, and he started slipping through it. And then now he slipped back. So I know it's crazy, but this is how the timeline stuff works.
So how do we know all this?
I mean, growing up, I studied physics just prior to, in the beginning of the string theory stuff. I love that stuff. Studied astronomy, thought about being an astrophysicist, or as Al calls me now, an asshole physicist, which is good. But part of that is, and I saw her come in, the cryptid huntress,
Yeah.
who's here. I've done a lot of research on what the collider does and what the theory behind it is, and I've taken a lot of notes, and I've done remote views of like what's really going on there and seeing these things crawling through cracks. Again, I can't personally prove it. I don't think anybody can. Okay. But I could definitely tell you that when they're ramping that sucker up again, I know I could feel it in my bones when it ramps up. And then also, I don't publicly state this, I do readings for people. Okay. And every time they ramp up, I've said X, Y, and Z to several people, and I'm 98% accurate in what I do. And they ramp up the damn collider, and I always have people just report back to me when and where, because I want to know when the hit is. I want to track my timeline, and most of the time, it's within the time frame I'm telling you. So if I said predicted something right now for June, right, or August, and then they ramp up the collider in June or July, I know it's going to be off because they're messing around with the timeline. Our timeline gets shattered a little bit and things get delayed purposely. And I've had those experiences. But it's a lot of correlation, and it's a lot of research. Again, everybody you get on these shows, even the scientists will put a quantitative, they'll start quantitatively making equations for whatever. Yeah, big deal. Okay, because this is it. Tesla, Einstein. Okay, they're kind of parallel in what they're saying, but Einstein's on the right path, and everybody banked on. Tesla's on the right path. Everybody was banking on Einstein, and he's close because it's very similar, but he's missing bits and pieces. And that's why they're discovering this now with the collider, because what he's missing, they're filling in the blanks. Don't get me wrong, he was super genius, Einstein, but Tesla blew his ass out of the water. And Tesla may have had interactions with beings, especially when he's playing with large forms of energy, shocking it constantly. You know, the coils, they built the giant one in Long Island, and the other one, I think, in the Midwest, Tesla coil.
No, we got one right down here in Waco, Texas.
I mean, or was it it was Texas? One of them. Well, yeah. And when you put that
I
kind
think
of energy,
they probably got several. We don't know about all of them.
oh, I'm sure. Matter of fact, there are people that go out and they buy the portable ones. You can get them on eBay. They run on 9-volt batteries, and they hurt if you touch people with them. Fun with family. Here, go touch that. Ow! Right? When that happens, weird things start happening. You start monkeying around with the energy in your area. I guarantee you, stuff's going to start being strange. And it's not like the EMF fear cage. Weird stuff starts taking place. Things start going missing, lights, weird sounds after, and it's not your psyche playing on, it's physical sounds and actions taking place. It's freaking strange. But
here's kind of a good question. I was thinking of this, and this Randy from chat asked a quick question. If the timeline has been altered, how would we know?
You wouldn't know unless you are doing some kind of remote view, or you're tapping into information. Okay. And as I said before, so one of the people that I would call my client, they had an issue, and I said, this is first of all, the future's it's fluid. So if I tell you you're going to hit the lottery, BMR, you're going to hit the lottery.
Awesome.
And you're going to be like, and you're going to hit for $3 million. And you're like, yeah, all right, great. This is awesome. Okay. And then what you do is, instead of going about your daily life, you sit on your ass, you're waiting for it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you come back to me and you go, dude, I didn't hit the lottery. I said, well, what'd you do? He goes, well, I was there and I was waiting for the lottery win. And I watched it every night. And I'm like, did you go out and buy a ticket? No. That's my point. Right.
And even if you were to say, Rob, your BMR, or Rob, you're going to win the lottery, if that's all you say, and I'm sitting there waiting for it, and maybe I buy one, but you don't know when that number is going to come in, right?
So what you have to do is you have to continue on with your life.
Yeah, exactly.
You can alter your path a bunch of times, but you still have to go to work, get up, go to the gas station, talk to this person, go through all the mundane stuff. And then it happens in the process. You may not know when it's going to happen, but it does. Now, in my case, I've given to several people readings and telling them mile markers, X, Y, and Z. Some were immediate, some were 3 weeks away, some were months away. By the time the summer comes, I'm thinking June. That's what I'm feeling. I'm getting. June's going to come, and then I don't talk to them immediately. So I'll talk to them in October, maybe January. I want to talk to him again. I don't want to take a reading. A lot of people want, like, I want to see you next week. I'm like, no, dude, you need more time. You need to season a little bit more. You need to see if you're going on the path. I had a reading recently where this is exactly what happened, right? So what happened? So instead of it happening in June, it didn't happen in June. I also knew it was toward the end. Well, it was really June and July, anywhere from the mid of June to mid July. And this was 2 years ago when I gave him the reading, and I was really antsy the last 3 weeks of June, and last 2 weeks of June into the beginning of July. Really, I mean, like, I felt it like a summer storm's coming in, you feel the pressure, and I'm on edge, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? And then I hear in the news, well, they're just, they just turned CERN back on, and I'm like, oh Lord. And I knew something was going to happen. And they turn it on, they run it like the end of June, the first 2 days of July, and then everything. And then we were supposed to be in mid-July, I don't hear back from him. But 3 months later, right? So that would be September, November. He goes, dude, it just happened. I said, he goes, it didn't happen in July. It happened. And then I hear back from another person I gave a reading where it was roughly around the same time. And they were off by 3 months. And then the third person was off. So that's how I gauge the future. That's how I know things have changed. But what they can do now is they can change the future to a certain degree, and then they can come back on course after. And the people that are screwing around with this are purposely trying to change this to prevent certain events from taking place. Like somebody coming back into office is one of them, and it wasn't working. There's, they may be preventing, like there's always a fight between good and evil. And it was really weird when they ramped up CERN that one time. This was like a year ago or 2 years. I think it was 2 years ago. The day after the tests were over, all these political leaders quit. They left office. I think that was the intended goal, that the truth was starting to come out about what was taking place, and they were trying to fix that timeline.
I mean, and fix the timeline. That would be, how would you even start, right?
Well, it gets into a lot of there's I think it's called Project Looking Glass.
Okay.
And if you've read Project Looking Glass, I'm going to give you a basic synopsis of it. There are 3 components that we were able to acquire from a variety of different craft. And if you put these components together, hey Donnie, if you put these components together, you basically can it kind of like corrects the Einstein-Rosen bridge, right? The time travel stuff. And you can see multiple timelines, multiple futures, and then you're able to manipulate the timelines by throwing in scenarios to it and trying to divert it. So if we do X, what would happen? Okay, if we do Y, what would happen? And that's how you manipulate the timelines. Okay. So in advance, okay, on this date, I need to do this. And then on this date, I need to follow with something else. Here's something that's very interesting. So let's get back to Tesla. And I'm not being political in here, but there are going to be political people mentioned, okay? Mm-hmm. So you understand.
Yeah.
So there is, and I've read a lot of this, and initially it was like rumor and people, how they're acting. But apparently the former president's uncle was a very, very big, powerful individual way back when, beloved by the current president that's under all this legal problems. There is a rumor that when Tesla died, he went in there and took everything before the FBI did. Do you understand you understand the ramifications of doing that, right? And in the process, had all the secrets that everybody wanted, and they also were able to acquire the 3 components needed to put together, because originally what supposedly happened was the 3 components were divided so nobody can predict the future, see the future events. One component was given to one country, another was given to another, the other was held in the US. Because if you put them together, then you can operate this system, you can see what the future is and manipulate it. To be fair, they spread it out. Rumor is the former president, people, or even the military, got these components, put them together, and this is why when he was incredibly accurate with what he used to tell you people. They're gonna try to do X, Y, and Z, and X, Y, and Z would happen, and then they're gonna do this, and that would happen. The only freaking way is if you're a damn time traveler, or you can see into the future. And this is all like all that deep state stuff we're talking about. And there's been a couple of things where he posted, very clever individual. Wish he would choose his words properly. It's not to piss everybody off, but he says, we got it all. We got all the components. We got all the information. And let me tell you something. I really do believe that the rumors of these things has been, I can't see it personally. I haven't gone in to see it. Some people in here in your chat right now may want to remote view that stuff, but they're going to come up against the wall. That's why I don't even bother on certain things.
Well,
Because
Jessica did mention in chat that she heard that the Trumps were time travelers.
yeah, well, I don't know if they're necessarily time travelers as much as someone has traveled backwards and forwards in time and has alerted the current bigwig, the patriarch, right now.
Right.
Because the probability, and I'm not doing math tonight, folks. Please.
When you say the word math, my head hurts. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember some of my equations. I'm not busting out a board at this, but the probability that this guy was so, and I've been monitoring this stuff and seeing how accurate it is, and I'm like, holy crap. If he's saying something, pay attention to what he's saying. I guarantee you, if you think the Simpsons were pretty accurate, they think Matt Groening is a time traveler. This guy's he's been knowing every step that they try to make against him. He knew about it, and he's thwarted it because he's well aware of what the future holds.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that old saying, whatever. And I'm not big into the anonymous stuff or the letter that they talk about. I don't want to get you guys in trouble.
Yep.
I'm not big in it. It sounds really sweet and good. And my exact comment is, yeah, this is great. Arrest somebody. Nothing has happened, but there are mile markers that were being ticked off. And the only way to do that is if you knew the future. So that's kind of weird that way.
Wow.
Just like, okay, Operation Paperclip, we talked about that. That's when we took some Nazis in, right? And actually, if it wasn't for Warner von Braun, the gentleman, the guy who created
Warner von Braun. Okay.
Yeah, Warner. He was in charge of the rocket program and the technology in Nazi Germany. If I tell you that they were like minutes away from winning this war, because they had a supersonic jet created with missiles, and they could have launched them, they would have killed us. The one thing they didn't have was a nuclear component. Okay? They didn't have that at that point. They were working on it, and they were really, really close. I mean, like really, really close. So we could all have been wearing funny mustaches and, whatever. Or some people could have been dead or whatever it is.
Yeah.
When he went and we took him in an Operation Paperclip along with a lot of other scientists. Classic story. There was a reporter that went to NASA and wanted to interview him, but never got a chance. And then he's interviewing some other party, and Warner comes in, and he goes, "I've been dying to meet you, sir. I have so many questions." He goes, "Well, I'm going to lunch. Why don't you join me?" So the guy's like, "Yeah, I'm going," right? So they go to lunch, and he asks them, he said, "You guys were so close to winning this war." I mean, like, and he said, "Yeah, we were extremely close." He goes, where did you get this technology from?" Now, remind you, he created the Glock, which is the bell, the Nazi bell. And there is footage going around that is not CI or AI, computer generated or artificial intelligence generated. It's actual film. I don't know where the hell that came from or who got it, but it's film. I've seen it long before the artificial intelligence came out. That is a legitimate video of this thing hovering and like on chains. Okay. This reporter asked him, "You were so close, where did you get your technology from? How the hell did you learn all this?" And without missing a beat, von Braun goes, "We get help from them." And he looks up them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it wasn't God that was giving him. He was basically telling them that they got help from extraterrestrials.
Yep. Okay.
What's very interesting is I don't know, I remember seeing this so many years ago, though. I want to say in the 70s or 80s, early 80s, someone claimed to find a coin, Third Reich coin, but it was like Americanized, and it had like 20 something on it. 2019 or 2015 or some date in the 20 teens, and it had the Nazi stuff on it, like the Third Reich Party. If you would see the eagle with the little talon, and it had the swastika on it. What if someone from one of the timelines jumped into our timeline and said, "Look, you need to do X, Y, and Z, and you'll get what you want." So right now there could be a timeline where you have Nazis winning the war, like you know what I'm saying, and now it's Hitler lived a long life, and half the planet's dead because of whatever, and everybody's under Nazi rule. This is all about time. This is all about timelines, remote viewing. I put that challenge out there. If you're a remote viewer, go look into them manipulating CERN and what they're doing there, because they're not doing it to solve the Bose equation, the Boysen, whatever the hell it is.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to do something with that, and it's in my opinion very evil. I don't know what their end goal is, but it's not good for humanity.
No, and I got to tell you what, that was the fastest hour, 52 minutes. No, you perfectly timed that.
Thank
little
you.
History lesson. I mean, I've heard a lot in text. We've heard on shows about, the Nazi Germany creating these super soldiers, right? And they're also back in the day of the Eisenhower Treaty, where we got tech from aliens. And that's actually how the Germans got their Panzers, which could turn on a dime. That was supposedly alien intelligence. Who knows, right?
100%.
And what you brought up just kind of just makes you think. It makes you think that how lucky maybe we are, right? That none of this went to fruition. With that being said, we got a 5-minute break. We got to take Sir Bryan M. Bowden's joining us. Great show, fantastic guest. We'll be back in 5.
Four minutes to go, folks. 4 minutes. Three minutes. We're almost there. 2-minute warning, guys. 2-minute warning. One minute. 1 minute.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning on into Beyond BMR with myself and big old Tex over in Studio B. Fantastic guest, Sir Bryan Bowden. Learned quite a bit on that segment. For everybody, I do have to shout out to Maggie, Rat Sass, Anella, Danny, and Wink at Me for your awesome super chat. Super chat is a great way to help promote what we do around here. And I have 2 channel members to join my channel. You are now officially BMR Pirates. That's Wink at Me and Be Kind. Thanks for that ever so much. And don't forget, on Mondays is Texas Front Porch at 9 o'clock in the East. Tuesdays, Van Buren Variety, 8 o'clock in the East. Beyond BMR, 9 o'clock in the East. Wednesdays, the Diva Dimension with Danielle Diva, 10 in the East. And Jason McLean still is doing Jason McLean questions, everything. I'll let Jason talk a little about that, but tune into Jason. And we've got an update on him coming shortly. Thursdays is Brunch with Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, 1 o'clock in the East with myself and Krista from the Blondes and Booze Paranormal Podcast. Please subscribe to them. And of course, the Blondes and Booze come on Thursday night at 9. You can also get the Blondes and Booze with a little woo mixing with Krista and Brandy Fridays at 9 in the East. Saturday, Tex, 3 in the East. If you're into true crime, Infamous Minds is where it's at. Go check out Tex and Miss Diva. And of course, on Saturday nights, Space Star Radio's Jessica Jones, Saturday and Sunday, 10 in the East. She, of course, is the Cryptid Huntress. You can find here on her channel 2 times during the week. So thanks for that. Thank you for a fantastic show. Thanks for all the contributions as we bring everybody back on up.
Hey, Brian, I got a question for you.
You're getting a request to have something more during the week.
Oh God, yeah. Well,
all right.
We want 10 more shows during the week. We need something on.
That is duly noted, Scott.
It's like we don't want you to have any lives outside of doing podcasts.
You know?
Rob mentioned just mentioned it,
Sure.
but the whole Super Soldier program.
Yeah,
I watched the program the other day, and it's the first time I got a chance to sit down and watch it. And I found out my buddy, that damn UK guy that I got friends with.
Very
I just
nice.
went blank.
I'm sure he appreciates that, but yeah.
I
moving
bet he
forward.
does. But the killer Yeti, the killer Russian Yeti. They were talking about the Detloff incident, and and another one. And they brought out something that was interesting that the Russians and the Nazis were both looking for the Yeti.
Yep.
And I didn't know that they had formal expeditions to go look for this thing and try to bring it into and use it as a soldier.
Well, so when you get into the world of cryptids, right, and you're getting into the Yeti, you're getting into a creature. It's Bigfoot, okay? It's the Himalayan Bigfoot.
Yeah.
We already know, and I'll tell you straight up, in this country, when you get to some of the areas in the Appalachia, that are not as populated, some of these things are real nasty and mean. You get to Ohio, the Grassman is an SOB beyond belief, very aggressive. But the most aggressive out of all of them is the Yeti. Okay.
Yep.
These things do not play. They will attack you. Even the locals know this, and they stay the hell away from them. I mean, I think they may even get to the point where they're going to offer like a yak or two just to like appease this thing. This is a vicious, entity being. Now, as far as Davlov Pass, there was that picture where they looked like there was a Yeti there, and that was interesting. But what my personal opinion on Davlov Pass is that it wasn't a Yeti, but it was extraterrestrial based, and I'll tell you why. One of two people that I know of that actually talks about this. One of them was Butch Witowski. I used to talk to Butch all the time. He was UFO cop at a PA, big time researcher into all this stuff. And him and I were the only ones that talked about you have cattle mutilations, but nobody talks about human mutilations. And if you compare what we saw in some of these, the people that went up to the Davlov Pass, and what the mutilations were, it is literally exactly like every human mutilation that we've ever seen. And I do believe that what they did see was an extraterrestrial craft, or a craft. Maybe the Russians had something and they were working with another group, but these entities went out and they went to town and had some lunch. And that's what I personally feel that these things are. I don't know if the Yeti was involved in it, but let's get to the super soldier side of it. Everything we talk about Bigfoot and cryptids and Dogman and Ram Man and Owl Man, whatever it is. And I always did that. We have Owl Man, who? It's all hypothesis. Everybody has theories. I've had plenty of experience with a lot of these things firsthand. And let me tell you something, when you're standing in the woods and there's a 9 to 10 foot bipedal giant monkey, hairy man, wild man, who could, without even thinking about it, rip your head right off your body.
Right.
It's very unnerving. Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't have one in my possession to do any type of experimentation. But I do know that the military pretty much does. I don't
see how they can't.
Oh, I know they do. I didn't want to believe in Dogman. I tell a story all the time. So my buddy Al, you guys know Al Santoriga, he's like, you got to hear this.
I think I've heard of him.
Yeah, you think you've heard of him. He's been on your show like 9 times. Got to hear this. This is out of control. There's this thing called the Dogman. And, he's giving him like, I thought we jumped the shark, right? I'm like, you're full of crap. We've gone above and beyond this stuff. And then you start hearing the stories, and then you start doing some research and poking the bear a bit. And then on my cell phone, I get a text, I get a message and a phone call from a number that it says calling you, pick up, capital, and the PBX is 000 and then 4 other zeros, and it says U.S. government. No, it said U.S. military, and so you get on the phone, hello, because I've had calls from people who work in the U.S. Marshals, and it comes up with the same 7 zeros, and it says U.S. Marshals, Southern District, New York State, whatever it is, and it tells you where it is. This said U.S. military, so I pick up. I'm hello. He goes, you want to know about this thing? And I said, who is this? He goes, I'm not telling you who I am, but I can tell you what I've done. And he's speaking properly, though. My job is to go out in a lot of these bases and to take care of these things you're talking about. And that dog man you're talking about is 100% real. It looks like a werewolf. They're nasty. They're vicious. And mine is to go out, protect the base, and try to get them alive. But they don't matter. They dead or alive, they want them. And I said, can you send me any other proof? Like, can you send me pictures of it? He goes, we'll see. And then it ends and you can't call it back, right? So you get this information from a third party, and there's no reason to, I don't give my number out to people.
Right.
And how they get my number is a different story. I have no idea, but they have access to stuff that apparently, whatever. And I'm sure each one of us being in this genre, field, whatever, we're names in a list like, text. They know your full name, your social security, blood, blah, blah, blah. And they can get to you as minute, just like the guy called me. So I believe that they have them in person. I believe they've been experimenting on them for a while and cloning them to being a controlled asset, be it like a super soldier going out and killing or for whatever reason, because first they're very interested, the dogman and the Bigfoot, and I would even go say the ram man, the owl man, all these bigger bipedal cryptids, I believe that they are flesh and blood here, but they have an innate ability to go interdimensional. And they also, in that process, they can change their physical form into molecular form, into what you would call the predator camouflage. And the government's like, we need to know how to do this. Because if they can do it, and we can figure out the secrets through genetics, then they can actually probably inject into some of our soldiers the ability to do that. Right? Or they could also create super soldiers to go out and let them loose. And that's what I think they did. I'm sure the Russians are involved in this. They're captured, just like you said. I really don't believe it was a Yeti up there in Davlov Pass. But that UFO, if you compare the human mutilations found in this country and also South America to what has been found over in Davlov Pass, it's almost verbatim.
Well, it's not, and the thing about it is the other one that's really curious is the one that happened in, what was it, in 83? That where the woman that
Texas?
the guide actually survived.
Yeah, one of them. Yeah, I think that was near Texas or in that Midwestern corridor. Am I close?
No, I'm talking about the other one in Russia.
Oh,
it was in the same area, but it happened in like 1983, and it was actually one of the guides survived, and they were making the trip in the summertime, and she witnessed each of the people. They hit this certain area, and each of the people started dropping dead, bleeding at the eyes and frothing at the mouth and everything, one by one. And she managed to escape. But
it's very well. One of my friends I grew up with is Evan B. Stone, and he is the main camera guy for Josh Gates. He was up there. I just watched that old episode right there. and I get to ask them a couple questions. Some people do believe the military had some kind of involvement in there, with chemical weapons or whatever,
Yeah.
which would explain the bleeding of the eyes, the
Yeah.
dropping of,
Definitely would.
what testing of it. But then again, who knows what other tricks or abilities some of these other extraterrestrials have?
Right.
What can they do? We already know that if you were talking about sound resonance and frequency, right?
Mhm.
We already know that if you use sound resonance frequency and then you throw some microwave into the mix, you get Havana syndrome. You could totally incapacitate somebody. You can do skull to ear, like I'm talking in your ear, like you're hearing somebody, and you can those effects can cause people to lose their mind. There are other effects where if you do it long periods of time we were talking prior to doing this about different sounds, that if you hit them at different megahertz and frequencies, you can literally cause seizures.
Right.
And then you can have blood vessels rupture at certain frequencies. So there's a lot going on here. Yeah.
No, and too, I'm glad Tex brought that about the super soldiers in the Dyatlov Pass. I was just watching something not too long ago, and you talk about these high frequencies, and these megahertz, whatever sonic blast they sent out there.
Right.
And again, there's 20 different theories behind Dyatlov Pass. Do you think that has something to do with how these people ran out of their tent, right? Just without their boots on, without their clothing on. You think it just disturbed them so bad they went nuts and they had to go running? Or do you think something else scared them to react in such a manner? And I know that's in my camera's not working. Can you hear me?
Well,
I can hear you. And it's
Bryan, let me jump in here real quick.
Sorry about that.
It's what a lot of people don't realize is all the evidence that they found, as far as them, being paranoid and breaking out of their tent and leaving their clothes behind and all this kind of stuff. All those symptoms can be attributed to either sound vibrations, like you were talking about, or high EMF, or a combination of the two.
Yeah, 100%. And people don't realize that. We were talking prior to this, and I'm going to do brainwaves right here. And I use a program, binaural beats. Okay. And usually it has ambience on it, and I'm going to play something of it, and you're going to hear it right now. Okay. You probably can hear it. And everybody can hear. I can still talk over it. This is going to enhance the delta REM when you're sleeping. So your delta waves are going to start going buggy with this stuff. You can use this on a subsonic level and totally manipulate whoever you want to manipulate. Okay. And we have the technology right now. I don't want to freak everybody out with all this, but there's a bunch of different things, and I'll stop it right now. There's a lot of frequencies that you can use. Not only can they heal you, they can destroy viruses. Every virus and every cell, organism has a certain frequency, and if you target that frequency, it'll pop. And Royal Rife is the guy that came up with the Royal Rife machine, and what he did with the Royal Rife machine was he was able to target cells, and then from targeting them, kill cancer, kill botulism, kill all these different mold, kill whatever. So take that and then do what our government does best, and even the Russian government, every government, weaponize it. Right? Let's say you want to draw these people out there. They put the frequency out and they draw them out. Maybe the extraterrestrials wanted to do it, and using telepathy, because they're using more percentage of their brain versus humans. I think if the smartest person on this planet uses maybe 10%, if you're lucky. I'm going to go more so about 6 to 8%, not full 10. Okay, most people don't even use 5. Now we see that, and they should not be allowed to breed, but that's a totally different program. but so what you take this, weaponize it, and you could literally be any place in the earth, even in space, and target somebody specifically, and you can weaponize that. And literally, that's what 5G is. What you don't realize is that each one of these phones gives off a signal, electric identification, ENID or whatever it is. Okay. And you could literally, by pinpoint specifically your phone, someone wants to take me out, they pinpoint my phone, they know where do most people carry it. Most men carry it in, pockets, right? Women are always carrying the bags. Some people put it in the breast pocket or the shirt pocket. Not only can you target, but where else do they put it in? Earphones, right? Those earbuds. Okay. You can target the earbuds and the phone, jack up that 5G. Your phone's going to overheat because it can't handle that kind of power. Your earbuds are going to blow up. So they're going to blow into your head. You're going to blow up your phone in your hand. It becomes, and then you get the lithium involved, and then it's a whole different project. So I can see them doing this and drawing out their prey, right? You have to understand when we did that deal, and Michigan Rob alluded to it with Eisenhower and whatever. Yeah, you're going to give us some reverse engineering technology. They basically gave us the Yugo of spaceships. Okay. They had Porsches and they gave us a Yugo, but it was enough for us to figure it out, what we needed. And then we started working with some of them and then expanded, okay, in the US. And to date, the US is about 150 years technology-wise ahead of any and all the countries in this planet because of what they've been doing. So if you get these people to work with you in the Eisenhower thing, and they said, we get some technology and we'll let you abduct people. Well, part of the technology is we have different types of grays. We have the little grays, which go like 3 feet, 3 to 4 feet. And then you get the tall grays, which are also known as ambassador grays. They're the ones that are intelligent, articulate for the most part, and deal with some major interactions with humans. The little grays are the idiots that are clones. They're extraterrestrial biological entities. They're cloned because they're worker bees, right?
Right.
It's like
they're the laborers of the bunch. Yeah.
they're the laborers, but their IQ is less than 80 in roughly in guesstimation. And they're the ones that crash the damn UFOs, and they're the ones that are always getting caught. But part of it, because you're creating a biological entity, and I believe the US has created their own, and they are abducting people also under the guise of UFOs for whatever their purposes are for, military wise. But these beings go off the ranch every once in a while, and they have a taste for human flesh. And that's why, they went and they did what they did. Texas had a couple of them. In the Midwest, there was a couple of bodies. And, this is what partially could have happened in Davlov Pass when the Russians are doing the same thing with the same ETs. And then they're like, where'd they go? And they're like, oh, they're eating all these kids here. So what you have to do is you have to get rid of everybody, because how do you explain that to a parent? Like, why is her eye socket missing? Perfectly, no blood. There's no blood anywhere.
Right.
Why is the sex organs missing? This is classic ET, dining out.
So you think they're doing it for food?
Oh, I believe 100% they're doing it for food. There's plenty of these beings that have a taste for human flesh. Like, it's like V. Remember the V, the series V?
Oh yeah.
Very much like that. Quite often.
So where since we're on the whole alien thing,
sure.
Where do the reptilians and the manta come into play?
Again, these are extraterrestrials that have been here. We have extraterrestrial interdimensionals in Earthers. They've been here for years. Actually, the reptilians, very aggressive. They've been here for millions of years. Actually, they claim to own this planet. This is their planet. They make this claim all the time. And they've infiltrated in the hierarchies and the structures throughout our societies. So they're in, that whole thing about the royals. I would not put that past the reptilians. The mantis are another group that are fairly aggressive. They're here trying to make their stake, but you got to understand there's so many different races of these beings or species that it's like a giant standoff. The ones from Sirius are not going to let the reptilians or the draconians or the Beetlejuice and they're all like, no, we're all here. And it's kind of like a Mexican standoff, they say, right? We're not letting you do it. And that's partially why there was an agreement made with the US. We were the superpower at that point. So they went into the superpower, and people were very much aware that reptilians exist and were made known that they exist, what they are, how aggressive they are, and to be careful of them. So this was like a combat that with making these arrangements. Everybody wants a piece of the pie.
Right.
And it's not a slave thing. It's kind of like it's like a game of Risk. They want to own a piece of this galaxy, and they're making their claim, but others are making their claim. And then when you work in the fact that human beings, their DNA and the junk DNA that exists in the DNA is the perfect building block for any type of species. And if you have species that are coming here that their entire planet and their system and their species are all extinct, and they have then they're sterile and they have no way of continuing, right? This is a perfect way to experiment. So they come here, they abduct us, they do alien to human, and then if you remember science class, you'll get if you have alien and human, I remember the X and Y box, so you'll have X, X, Y, Y, right? Which is pure alien, pure human. Then you'll have X, Y in one box, and then Y, X in another, which is different type of hybrid. And then if you start breeding different ones each other, you can breed out the human aspect of it and then continue the alien race. That's what can happen.
So, I've got, okay, now this is, of course, jumping subjects here. I'm
Sure,
trying to push into
jump away.
You're doing just fine. It's nothing like I have to go back and watch the second half of my own damn show now.
I'll send you the cliff notes.
Yeah, there you go.
So
it wouldn't be a total show if I didn't blink out at least once or twice.
Oh, that happens all the time. I gotta tell you that a lot of times if you listen to our when I'm on a broadcast and I'm not doing this, I don't pat myself on the back. A lot of times you're gonna find EVPs in your recordings, and weird things happen. Oh, yeah. And of course you have anomalies because we're talking about certain subjects that they don't want you to talk about, so you start glitchy and getting glitching, for the most part. But continue on, sir.
So something I found the other day, I ran across it, was very, very interesting to me. Now, how many years have they been telling us that you can't cross human DNA with other animals, right? Yeah. But how many decades have they been using pig valves for heart repairs? And now, not only that, they've done a full transplant twice that we know of.
Heart?
Yeah, a pig heart into a human being, and it worked.
Yes, so, it does.
Now you would think the way they talk about how close we are to chimpanzees, how close we are to the great apes, all this kind of stuff, that would be the organs that they would use. But no, they're using pigs. Now, this also raises a question of the laws that the UK passed several years ago and the ones that the US passed just, I think it was a year or so ago, about is Well, bottom line, it's illegal to harm any type of chimera. So where is this leading here? I mean, we've already got the whole super soldiers programs we're talking about, and now publicly we're seeing these transplants of other animal parts into humans and being used. And we know, but if that's coming out publicly, they're leaps and bounds beyond that.
Yeah, they're doing things they should. My personal opinion,
Because I think it all ties in.
It does, and it ties in with the last couple of years. And I'm going to leave it as the last couple of years. Okay, I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV. Okay, I don't, I'm just letting you know that this is just my own interpretation. From probably should have been a doctor, but I didn't go into medicine because I really don't want to work in a hospital. There are too many sick people. I know it's
Right.
I have a lot of family friends like you're a waste of talent, and like I agree, I would love to have been able to help people. But so all right, it's gonna get so bad. I hope you don't get banned for this. So
no.
I don't know. No. I'm gonna be good, and I'm trying to work my way
It's
around
Rob's channel. I'm not worried about it. Just tell me what I need to know.
No, Rob. I'm really trying to work around this so you're good. So if you read Old or New Testament, even the Quran, there's something about cannibalism you can't eat because it's cannibalistic. You're not allowed to eat humans or whatever. There's only select things you can take from humans, like blood transfusions are semi-okay, whatever it is. Although if you're a Jehovah's Witness, you can't even do that for whatever reasons, right? So something I found out when going to Hawaii, the number one food in Hawaii by Hawaiians is spam. Okay. And okay, they love their spam, they love their pork. And partially the reason why they love their spam and their pork is at one point Hawaiians were cannibalistic. Get it? It's and I've heard from someone who was whose family's been in it and said several times, my grandfather said it's the closest to tasting like human flesh. So
well, there's a reason we're referred to as long pig when they talk about the cannibalism.
Exactly. So keep that in mind, right? So if we're close to tasting like it, then there were probably a lot more to the fact that we really are closer to that being initially in certain molecular structures. Now, in certain parts of different religions, they do not eat the pig or go anything. It's called treif, or it's no good, right? The Muslims won't do it. The Jews won't do it because it's an unholy animal. It eats its own slop. It's dirty, whatever. Okay. I think part of that was it's too close to human flesh for the most part. Although bacon rocks. Okay. We're not, and barbecue. Okay. Whatever. So that being said, I think that that's one of the reasons why they're actually using pigs for these things. And then what they're doing is, I don't know if you're aware of this, they were growing human parts in sheep and lambs throughout. There was a couple of labs in the Midwest or something like that were growing. That's where they're growing parts. They were working on genetic, growing another heart. So like if you had a heart attack, right, and you needed a new heart, you technically wouldn't get ripped open. You'd grow your own heart with some of your DNA and your cells so that you wouldn't reject it. So now you'd have a heart working, and then slowly that would move in and take over. Then you can reattach it higher up to where the heart piece is, get rid of the old heart, and then that's what would happen. Problem is, some of these labs, these animals escaped and went into the main bulk of stuff, right? And they're using human cells to use it and do it. So people just don't know which ones were experimented on or not. So a lot of this product has gone out into the mainstream in the public. That's a conflict of interest. And it's a conflict of the guy upstairs. Okay.
Right.
What happened? The thing that they were touting, I'm gesturing here. Okay. I read the paper on what they use in that 20 plus years ago. And I remember I read Malone's paper and I'm like, oh my God, I'm on a trading floor. And people are like, what's going on over there? I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible. Like, what are you reading? I'm like, oh, hold on. And I keep reading it. And it's great because I'm like, I think we just discovered the magic bullet. And then you read, and it's not a magic bullet. Everything dies. Everything changes. It fundamentally changes the DNA. The DNA is God's creation. And someone broke it down online. Basically, it's like the fire of God, basically. It is the building block of humanity. God created, it's God's creation, okay? And I think what's happening now is that product that they're using, and people, I'm just gesturing here, that fundamentally changes that DNA. And if they put certain things in it on a nanotechnology scale or whatever, or other cells, then you create a hybrid. You're not human anymore. You're transhuman. Okay. And it's true. In nature, you cannot own anything that's natural. You cannot patent anything that's natural. But whatever is created and not natural then has ownership. I think what they're trying to do is there's a war between good and evil taking place in this world. It's right in your faces, everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And I think what they're trying to do is if they're trying to create transhumans to control them and put them under the control. And be careful tomorrow at 2:20 Eastern Standard Time, which is there's something going to be taking place. Be careful. And if you do that, you're desecrating God's creation. It's blasphemy. And I think they're purposely doing it. You know what? You're not supposed to be hooked to the internet through your brain and downloading like, Elon Musk wants. You know what? My grandmother went through that whole pig valve thing, and she kept kosher, whatever it was, and she was worried about it. And her spiritual leader is like, it's okay. And I'm like, Grandma, do whatever the hell you got to do. It's about living. Yeah. And my philosophy is if God didn't want you to do it, he would stop you or wouldn't give you the information. So it's not a big deal. So I think they're trying to manipulate people that way. They're trying to create transhumans. There's something very interesting. One of the byproducts of the thing that took place the last couple of years, babies are born with these black eyes, no expression, bigger heads, black eyes.
Really?
And someone proposed the idea because extraterrestrials said, we are you. Some of them have been interviewed, said, we are your future. And some people are kind of stating that these new kids being born that are injected with, their mothers were injected and whatever, that's the beginning of this creating the ET species. Some of these beings. So there's a lot of negative, there's a lot of darkness that's coming in relationship to this stuff. And again, not all extraterrestrial. I personally don't believe there's a huge table there with mantis and reptilian, and there are Bigfoot looking creatures that look like Bigfoot, but they're not, and other extraterrestrial beings, and they're some galactic federation, here to take charge of the universe and help the earth. And before we help the earth, who wants Chinese and who wants pizza? Raise your tentacles. I don't believe that.
Yeah.
All these beings are out for their own vested interest. And the only thing that keeps us where we are and somewhat safe is that the majority need us for their needs to expand their races. Other than that, it would be an all-out war, and they're not all nice. And they're not all, it's 99% of these beings, it's black and white. There is no emotional component. And emotion's what makes humans humans. It's the same thing with AI. AI is never going to be good because it lacks that emotion. Life is not about black and white. There's that emotional gray area, which is so important. And those gut feelings that we get. That's your third eye. That's the connection. When God creates man in his image, he gives him some of those, abilities to connect spiritually to God and open the third eye and foresee things. This is why it is extraterrestrials don't have it. It's one or two, but there's more in the middle than 1 and 2. I don't know if I went a little bit off the rail on that, but
Yeah, it's just my head is already spinning for another show on this.
I apologize.
When we have you back, but really quickly when you hear about like even the alien abduction, or you see these pictures of the grays. Now that you mention this, and I never really thought about this, but if you look at some of these photos, who knows if they're fake, they're real, whatever, but we all have an idea what I'm talking about with these photos of the gray. If you look at them, they don't have a personality. It just seems like, when you're on that table up in their spacecraft and they're probing you, they are just all about business, right? And extracting whatever it is that they're looking for, and they can discard. And if you die, you die. Or if they send you back, they send you back.
Yeah, one of my buddies, he's out of the West Coast. He's a great. He wrote a book, Alien Encounters and Inconvenient Truth, or something like that, or Alien Abductions, whatever it is. It's the only thing in this business that scared the crap out of me, because he's describing some of his multiple abductions. He's been abducted by the U.S. military, and they use the guys at UFOs to keep people under control and to do whatever nefarious things they want to do. He's been abducted by multiple races. He's watched he's regressed himself. He's been regressed a couple of times, and he watched this machine, and they pick people up, and if they don't fit what they need, a lot of times they eliminate them, and they just like vaporized and zapped, So I mean, it's very interesting what's taking place, but I've had a couple of missing times. I think Al may have mentioned one or two, but I've had, and I've been doing this for a long time. I probably had more missing time. I just wasn't paying attention to it, but this happened at certain points where I can pay attention to it, and I don't need the regression. I'm sleeping pretty good. I don't want to wake up and know what they did or what they took. My only I have 2 complaints, and I'll say it. They could take a little bit out of the front, maybe elsewhere. And if I do have alien children, in some planet, I'd really like to know and get their social security number so I can claim as dependents on my taxes this year. Get that $13.75 for each kid or whatever it is. But other than that, I don't want to know. And I know a couple times. I know the last time I had the missing time is North Carolina, right by Fort Bragg, and all 4 of us were taken: me, wife, 2 kids, and I know it. And then since I've been down this place, I get this uneasy feeling, and I'm looking out the window. I'm waiting for that thing to pop up. I know it's out there. And I'll hear the high pitched sound, and then every time I hear this high pitched sound, I look up. There's the craft, red, orange, green, blue, yellow, purple. I know something's going to happen. But there's a couple of times where, confirming what the hell I'm saying, I wake up, I feel very uneasy, and I go out to my, I'm on the first floor, my kids are on the second floor. I go to the sofa to hang out. Like, I got to sit up. I can't lie down. Something's up. Something's weird. And then my youngest comes down and tells me, can I stay with you? It scares the crap out of me because I wasn't expecting her. And I was a bit uneasy about the evening. I don't normally get unnerved. And I said, yeah, do you have a bad dream? She goes, no, I saw the aliens and they were outside in the craft. And I took this to whip them. She took like these old Mardi Gras beads. I'm like, okay, the kid, that's not going to work. And she goes, can I stay with you? I said, you can stay with me. I don't mind you taking an adult. Don't take my kids.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they've been taken. I kind of stated all the time. I hear the high pitched sound, which always forces me to look up. And I say, don't touch my kids. I don't want that crap to happen. I can't prove everything, but after that event, my youngest had a BB, like an indentation that about the size of a BB on her back with a little blood. My oldest, something came out of her nostril that was like a gauze pad, but made from like a spongy material. If you ever see those erasers, magic eraser?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, they make a really thin one. That's what it felt like. And this kid's like a bull. She never gets sick. She's got like great genes for that, never gets sick. And she has a nosebleed and this whole thing comes out. I'm like, no.
Yeah, I'm with you there, man. That would
Yeah.
I don't know what I would do actually with that. Freak out, I guess, initially.
I mean, I was kind of shocked, and when I saw that thing came out, I grabbed it with the intention of sending it to somebody I know at NYU who works with genes and DNA. I wanted, like, I got the smoking gun in my damn hand, but every time I went to do it, something prevented me from doing it. Like I thought about this afterwards, like, why didn't I just stop and take it and just send it? What was, it's almost as if they're paying attention to what I was doing. They didn't want you to know. And that happens a lot with these beings. They don't want you to know yet. And sometimes, it takes multiple visits for you to be fine with knowing what's going on. Then they start downloading you. And then they start putting stuff in your head. And then you start drawing stuff out of nowhere. Or there's these kids in Australia. I think her name's oh my God, I can't forget Mary's last name. She's an investigator. She's investigating the light language. There is a language some kids have around the world. It's the same language. It is a legitimate language, and they can communicate with each other. And it's using light to draw with. It's the weirdest thing, but they're multiple abductees. They've had that kind of abduction.
And I've heard a few people talk about the light language and the light beings and all this, and I've never actually had the chance to really sit down and discuss that with somebody, because I'm actually I'm a novice at it.
Yeah,
and that's being generous about that. But
well, I was going to Gemini Moon put it up there. I was going to say Rodwell, but I was thinking of somebody else, and I didn't want to misspeak. But it is Mary Rodwell. If you want, I'm friends with Mary. Haven't talked to her in a while, but I can probably try to put you in contact with her. The problem is she's in Australia. It's a weird, it's bloody strange having a conversation US Australia. So, but it'd be worth it.
Oh yeah.
She has a book out about it. It's phenomenal. It's interesting. I have yet to come across it, personally with myself. But I'm always, open to certain, I want to meet some of these kids and I want to talk to them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, Rob's show, Thursdays at noon will be a great, time to interview her, because that, as far as the time slot goes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think that's 6 a.m. their time. I think at 12 or 1. I'm not sure. I had somebody from Australia on. I think you were doing the show with me, Tex, the young lady. Yowie Central. Yeah. Sarah Bignell. Awesome.
Yeah.
She's a pod show host in Australia.
Right.
And very good. It's actually, you guys check her out. She has a pretty great show herself on the
Can I answer a question for Rat Sass that's there? He asked about missing time and how I know. Okay, so 2 times. One time where I was on an investigation, and when the light in the craft came in, one of the members goes, time check. I recorded that actually on video. I never would have stopped that video. It wasn't one of those cameras that stops after 30 minutes or 30 seconds. I would have kept that sucker on. We had a 9:15 time check. By the time we went, we were literally five minutes away from the next location while we're having this event. And then when we got there set up, we did some things, and we went to call our psychic, and we did another time check. He goes, give me a time check. And it was 11:45. So that's how I knew one of them. The second one is I'm driving from New York down to Florida. They get me off on Route 301 by North Carolina. My family's passed out. It's 11:45. I'm going to be going and staying in Florence, South Carolina, and from Fayetteville to Florence is about an hour, no more than that. I'm using my Waze. When I pulled off the side of the road, 301, had a cigarette, saw this crazy craft. Next thing I know, I'm in the car. My Waze is there. It turns on, and what Waze does is you want to continue your drive. So you said resume, and then it says on the screen at the bottom, you'll arrive at it, so it's 11:45. It wasn't any more than 10, 15 minutes smoking a cigarette and seeing this thing. And I should have been there at 1 a.m. It said you will arrive at 4 a.m. And I looked at my clock, it was 3 something. So yeah, that's how I remember it. But most people don't remember it. But if you can, and you're having an encounter with an orb or a light or a big, always try to rationalize it. Give me a time check. And then you'll know.
I don't remember. I had a time loss incident. I don't remember nothing about it. And Jessica was good enough to remote view it for me, and then Danielle Diva just confirmed everything she was saying. So I mean, it's like I don't even know what to do with it.
Sometimes you don't want to. You definitely don't want to do the regression, because if you sleep well, that'll be great. But if you don't sleep well you're not going to sleep well after it. You're opening a Pandora's box that can't close.
I've thought about it, but my problem is I don't trust anybody poking their fingers in my head when.
Same here. I don't. There's very few people that I do put that kind of faith into, because there's a couple of people, and even them, they would be like, can you make it so that every day at 3:00 he starts barking like a dog?
Yeah.
And that's that crap that they'll do to me. Like, who wants burger? Woof, woof. Like,
I do that already. I mean,
yeah, it would be interesting. But even my friend Derek said, he asked me, how do you sleep? And I said, well, I don't really sleep that well. He goes, well, he said, I have a hard time going to sleep. My brain starts working. Then I start thinking about like crazy stuff. And by the time I drift off, it's late. He goes, no. Could you have horror, like bad dreams? I go, no. He goes, then do not regress yourself.
Yeah. That's good advice, because who knows? I don't think I was ever abducted, but if I had a sense or thought that I was, I don't think I would go through that, because I don't sleep that good anyways. And if I don't know about it, I don't know what I experienced because I was unconscious. I don't think I'd want to hear myself, because when they do that, right, you're talking back to the person performing it, right, in your own words, and that would be so creepy.
You're reliving it. They open up they regress it for a reason. See, you gotta understand something. When people have these abductions mentally, you want to call it, doesn't matter if you're a man or woman, it's like almost like a rape.
Okay.
It's an unwanted,
it's a violation. Yeah.
100% violation. It doesn't matter how tough you are. There's plenty of video of people regressed and they're big, like bodybuilders, real bad, tough guys. And they're crying like babies because of what's going on. So that's part of it. But then, like I said, we're all connected because we're supposed to be. And I'm sure that a lot of us here have missing time and we're not aware of that. But now, as we're going through life, now we're going to start paying a little bit more attention, and where you're maybe aware of certain things. They will not allow you to understand or open up or remember unless you're mentally able to deal with it.
Okay.
And this could take decades, but this is what happens. And then you slowly start to remember, and some people will start by drawing things. Some people will, it'll start by, if they do have some hybrid children, sometimes they let the hybrid children come and kind of visit, but at a distance, and you see a weird kid looking at you like, who the hell is that? Well, that's the weird mask kid. And you don't realize that's your creation. That's a hybrid of you. And then over time, if you're really adjusting to it and you're becoming a mouthpiece, and then they want you to spread the word, and you have like a podcast like this, or, Texas French Porsche, True Cryptid Encounter, all this stuff, then they're going to allow you. I remember I was on the craft. They showed me this video, and in the video, I showed the destruction, blah, 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 blah. You'll start to remember it. and they'll open up your third eye, and then it all starts flooding in, you know. And you know, when you use certain abilities like remote viewing, or you tap your mind into it and you can start open your conscious stuff and vibrating, they may start unraveling, you know, because you're doing certain things to help that, but you're able to, you know, handle it. Some people, they don't want to know aliens. No, they couldn't handle it. It's too much for them, you know.
No. You know, it's also too much is this camera of mine. You guys can hear me. I gotta tell you, you know, we're almost coming up
Seriously.
on 2 hours, man, and
Not a problem, brother.
I love it. It's always a 2-hour show when you come on, so we love having you on. And
I appreciate
before
that.
we let you go, where can people find you, look you up? And I'm gonna need your links too, so I can put it in the description a little later.
Yeah, I'll send you my I have a link tree thing. I'm
Okay.
adding to it. I'm trying to rebuild my Facebook page. I mean, my personal page, BryanBowden.com. So it's kind of crap right now. It's just life getting in the way of things. But I'm currently in Facebook jail again, semi
Yeah,
on
yeah.
parole. I'm always there. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Telegram's a great spot. Twitter, I'm on everything, every social platform, but I usually hang out. I'll stop in Facebook. I'll see some things and then I go. I don't hang out on Facebook land. I want to live life. And if you
Yeah.
have any questions, you want to know more, please just message me. Say, I saw you with Tex and BMR, you know, Bigfoot Michigan Rob. So you're on the show. What about this? Or I'm having this. I'll answer them. Okay. And, you know, don't be afraid. I may not accept your friend requests. All of them. I'm running out of that. And Facebook right now is preventing me from doing shit right now. But just reach out to me and I'll be more than happy to help you out. That's what I do. It's just, that's it. And then I'm trying to get on a couple of programs, big programs. If I can get on these, it'll be good. But one of them's Gaia Network and the other one's Ancient Aliens. So I'm working on that right now. Yeah.
Well, that's
I hope
awesome.
it works out for you, man.
So do I. It's not, you know, here's the deal, right? I was working on doing sizzle reels for stuff to try to sell. I don't want to necessarily be on TV. I want to be able to, you know, I want my own program, not because you be on TV or you don't make money in this thing. You seriously, it's a couple $100, maybe $1,000 to an episode, unless you're ghost hunters. You're going for 12 years.
Yeah.
I want to do a show with cryptids because I want them to pay for my equipment. You know, we need that $75,000 FLIR drone right now.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? That's it. You know, I need 16 guys around the perimeter of that lake, all with FLIRs running. That's the only reason. I tell this to Al all the time. I'm like, dude, I get a show. We're going to be playing with some cool toys. Yeah. So that's it. That's where you can find me. And thank you guys for having me on. And I'm sorry, Rob, that you are frozen right now.
Yeah, I think
it's a picture though.
Yeah, well, I lucked out on that one, but
I've
my
seen
internet's good.
Frozen, and he just looks not great.
Yeah.
He's not happy.
Well,
you know,
I think I might have to get a new camera because I figured it out. My internet is working just fine. It might be a connection to my camera. It's about a year old, so I don't know. It's relatively new. With that being said, though, thank you, Brian. Thanks, Tex.
Pleasure.
Thanks to Maggie.
Yes.
Rat Sass, Anella, 2 times Donnie Cho, a wink at me for your awesome super chats. Also, thanks for Wink and Be Kind for becoming members of the channel. You are now official BMR Pirates. Congratulations. Something new I'm trying out. So if you like it, check it out. If not, that's fine too. More importantly is when you come watch the show, subscribe. Texas Front Porch, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, all on YouTube. And of course, check out Sir Brian M. Bowden. He's you're a wealth of knowledge, Brian.
I appreciate it.
And I guess for Tex, you got any closing thoughts? Anything coming up, or should I take her out home?
I want to throw this out real quick. Y'all don't forget on Sundays at I think it's 2 or 3. Good God, they're going to shoot me. Midwest Night Watchers. Y'all check them out. And the 14th, we got a huge panel show collaboration we're doing with them. Texas Front Porch, BMR, Blondes and Booze, Diva, Jason McLean, Rand, bunch of us. We're going to be over there on one show. Huge panel.
Yeah, that'd be
So-
great. I'm looking forward to that one.
That's going to be awesome. Everybody
great.
plug in on that internet.
Yeah, we will definitely. Yeah, I'll have to get a new camera for that one. Geez, it'll be 5, 6 of us on there. But anyway, again, Brian, great show. Thanks for everybody for
Thank you.
showing on up.
Appreciate it, brother.
And your donations and your support. And thank you, Tex. With that being said, until next time, I'm Bigfoot Michigan Rob. For Brian, for Tex, we are out.